Hello, welcome to the James Cooley Show. It's your life, and I tell you, first of all, I want to wish everybody a happy, great day. I mean, I know you're having one. If you woke up this morning, that's a happy day. So I just want to be the first to wish you all a happy day. Also, I'm excited about this show because today's show because in life, many of us, including myself, uh, go through the unfortunate thing of having to get a divorce. And a lot of times, we fight and argue with our, spouse on what that is and how it could be. And sometimes it turns out to be real dirty. But then other times, if we knew certain things, even though divorce is still required, maybe we might be able to talk about it and mediate on having a peaceful transition. So I got a great guest on the show today. She's been on the show before, and I love this young lady because right, she always bring a wealth of knowledge, and she's gonna tell you how it is. I'm just gonna tell you. Her name is Bonnie Montel, and she is an attorney, family practice. I can say she's a lot of different things, but a family practice mediation attorney that help people come through or get to the easier transition. And I tell you, I cannot wait to get her on and talk about some of these things because I know some of you all out there might be having these same problems and trying to figure out how to do it. Bunny is that person. So I tell you, I, I'm gonna bring her on and let her tell you about herself. So if you want to be part of this conversation, regardless where you're watching it at or listening to it at, all you have to do is go to the comments, ask Bunny or ask myself any question you want to, and I promise you that we'll get you some answers. So without any further ado, Bunny, man, Taya, how are you doing?
Hi, Dr. Cooley. It's amazing to be back on your show. Thank you so much.
Wow, it's always a pleasure having you on, and the different things that you talk about, especially when it's needed like this, and when people do go through those problems about deciding to get divorced, and you know, yeah, they know that they got you to turn to. So I'll tell you what, buddy, can you tell our listeners and our viewers a little bit about you, where you grew up, and anything else you want to tell them in 3 minutes?
Sure. 3 minutes. That gives an attorney a whole lot of time. So I come from Canada. I was born in Montreal, Canada, and lived there until 21 years ago when I came here because my first love, I was married and divorced, and he was married and is divorced, and he reached back out to me. And he had small children. I had no children. So it made more sense for me to come here than asking him to leave his young kids and move to essentially a completely different country, even though we're just right above you guys. I came here. I had already been an attorney working in a large law firm. And when I came here, I had to find my way here. And I found, while he was going through his divorce, I started working for his attorney. And that's how I ended up in family law and realized that, wow, if I could do anything to help the kids, the parents, of course, get through this process, but it's really about the kids because they didn't ask for any of this and they're stuck in the middle. So for me, my focus has always been on getting people through the process so they can move on and do what they were supposed to do, which is parent their children and co-parent their children.
Oh, so buddy, what do you like about your professional, and what are some of the challenges?
Uh, like I said, I've been doing this now in California for over 20 years, and I have an amazing team around me. What we all find challenging is the inconsistencies between different judicial departments. Our system is still run by human beings who have opinions, positions, preferences. And while all of our judges are trained, about bias and not allowing it to come in, we're also human beings and we can't get around that. So the challenge is trying to get clients through the system when there's no guarantee for what the outcome is going to be, which is very hard for most attorneys who happen to be alphas. We don't like the uncertainty. It's also the length of time. Our court systems are backed up. We all know that COVID created such a chaos, and we're all very backed up. So you could wait months, 5, 6, 7 months before you get a hearing just on custody and visitation and support. You can wait 2 years to get a trial date. What do people do in the meantime? So I have, and it's divorce can be very angry. As you know, as we both know, it can be a very difficult time. It's already hard when you're breaking up a family, when you have the death of a relationship, and you're going through all the stages of grief. Believe it or not, we all do, because it is the death of a relationship. Now you're supposed to go to court and fight with each other while you're spending your kids' college funds on attorneys. I know that sounds strange because it's my business, but it's not about making every dollar. Oh yeah, there are law firms out there, as you all know, that it's all about that. But we've got families. Like, these are not, criminals get sometimes more respect and compassion than moms and dads. So Primus, that's Primus Family Law Group, we try to do it a little differently. I mean, we are zealous advocates. We will litigate when there's no other choice, but we also are really proud of the mediation work that we do, getting people to, if it's one issue we can resolve or the entire case, that's less off their plate.
Wow. It's been written that come toward, the holidays, the end of the year, that's when most people decide to get a divorce. I'm going to play a little clip from you and let's talk about that.
Hi, welcome to another segment of Right and Reasonable. I'm Bonnie, certified family law specialist from Primus Family Law Group. Now, the holiday season is a wonderful time of the year, but for some of you, I understand that this may be a very difficult time. You're making the very hard decision to file for divorce, and all you're trying to do is get through the holidays so you don't have to answer very difficult questions and trying to make sure your friends, your family, and your children have a really nice holiday season before you decide to file for divorce in January. And that is a completely reasonable solution to a very difficult situation. Also, it gives you a chance to start fresh in the new year. Once again, this has been a Right and Reasonable moment from Primus Family Law Group. Thank you for listening.
I love it. I love it. Let's talk about that a little bit. So a couple of major points you brought out is if you decide to get a divorce, and you might as well, that's what you're going to do. It's best to start off the new year, as a new year. So tell us, our listeners, some of the options, because you see clients like this all the time, and they come there just like you mentioned earlier. They fighting each other, they are arguing each other, they are hating each other at that particular time. Why should couples that know that they're splitting up, getting a divorce, why should they be reasonable? And just tell our viewers that.
James, it's people, sorry, it's hard to have so much. The reason it's not about being reasonable, it's about being practical, really. You can sit there and create so much anxiety and physical and mental stress for yourself and for your kids by fighting every single point. When you believe something must be a certain way or it has to end up a certain way, it's like the saying, pride goeth before a fall. You set yourself up for failure. You have a house, cars, one set of income from either both of your jobs, or if only one of you is working. Those are facts. They don't change. So when you sit there and say, well, I must have this, without looking at, well, what are the factual, financial, and reasonable consequences of that position? That's what tends to lead to a lot of the fighting that results in very expensive litigation. When I say, let's come to the table, I don't expect people to have it all worked out. I'm there to give creative solutions, provide people what I know from years of experience is likely to happen in a trial. So let's talk about that now and see how I can move A off their dead fast position and B off their dead fast position and come up with something in the middle that both of you can live with, that neither of you are completely in love with. If that's what it is, where you're both hurt a little bit, I've done my job. And it leads people, it's less expensive, it's less time consuming, and it's less anxiety on them. So many people come to me and go, wow, you helped relieve a lot of the stress, because through mediation, we do it all for you. We don't represent wife, we don't represent husband or, same-sex partners. We don't represent the individual.
Oh, I think we lost her for a second. That was getting interesting. She should be coming back on shortly.
I have a face for radio. So it's a matter of getting people to realize that we're trying to get you over the hump so that you can move on. Your kids are going to have high school graduation. I'm thinking they want both of you there. They're going to get married. I'm thinking they want both of you there. That happens a lot better if you're not doing this, if you are working like this to get through the process.
Oh, yeah. Wow. That's a lot. That's a lot to dissect right now. But I tell you what, we're going to take a station break. We're going to come back. We're going to pick that up. And we're going to pick it up from there, because I got a couple of key questions that I want to ask. I tell you, if you want to be part of this conversation, all you have to do is just go to wherever you're watching this or listening to this Bunny at, and just ask her any question you want to. I promise I'll get it on the screen and we'll get your answer. It's Your Life. I'm Dr. James J.C. Cooley. We'll be back shortly after the break.
It's not surprising that 2 in 5 military veterans becomes an entrepreneur. As soldiers, we're trained to leave no man behind, to cross the line together. As business owners, we make sure veteran owners and small businesses cross the finish line together. Connect, learn, secure contracts, create jobs. Opsforvets.com. Handshakes, not handouts.
Wow, welcome back. Welcome back to It's Your Life. I'm Dr. James J.C. Cooley with Bonnie Montreal, and she is just telling you like it is. And if you want to be part of this conversation, just go ahead on. Like I said, just go to the comments, ask any question you want to. I got a couple of questions. So, Bonnie, so in mitigation, you have both the husband and the wife or the partners sitting, somewhere in the same room together.
In mediation, not in litigation. In litigation, they're in court together.
Yeah.
Sometimes in litigation, if the attorneys are trying to settle, they may be together. I do mediation either by Zoom, like a similar situation like you and I have right now, or I do it in person if the parties prefer. But yes, they are, or I do it separately. Maybe I'll have a session with one spouse and then I'll have a session with the other spouse, give them an opportunity to vent, but still trying to address the issues, like I said, on a neutral basis.
Do you have ever, some people are so mad at each other. It's kind of, I think it's kind of hard for that to happen. Have you ever experienced any cases like that where you just said you had to kind of separate and say, okay, we're going to do this time with you and this time for you?
Yeah, I've had to put a couple of people in their place when they feel like they're going to, run the show and talk over each other. But not every case, unfortunately, is ripe for mediation, right? You've got to have two people who are willing to at least entertain the positions of the other person. If you have a person who is dead set on, like I had said before, what must happen, it's going to be a lot harder to get them to the table. What I do find is after they've spent 2 years in the system and wasted tens and twenties of thousands of dollars fighting for something that may or may not happen, it often changes their mind. I get a lot of cases that are ready for mediation because they're done, they're exhausted, and they don't want to go to that trial that's now set 15 months later. I'm trying to get people to come do it first. Before you've exhausted all of your financial and emotional resources, let's do it the other way. Let's see if we can't resolve our issues, and then whatever remaining, that can be litigated. It's a lot easier to litigate 2 issues than 32 issues.
Wow. So you chose the title mediation over litigation. Can you tell our viewers and our audience exactly why you chose that topic and exactly what does that mean?
Litigation is the process of each of you getting an attorney or each of you going to court on your own, presenting the judge with your issues, and letting a judge who may spend 20, 40 minutes deciding your case, including custody and visitation of your children. Now, that seems a little bit, what? Why are we doing that? Why are we letting somebody decide for us when we are adults and we can do this ourselves? And even judicial officers want you to resolve things instead of coming to them. They themselves will say, please try to get a resolution of some of these issues. You don't want me, who only knows you for such a short period of time, making such life-changing decisions for you. That's why actually in litigation, you have mandatory meet and confer. The attorneys must try to resolve issues. Mediation can be where the 2 parties meet with one neutral attorney who knows the law, who's going to tell you what the law is. And still, once we figure out what the law is, we can still say, well, that doesn't work for us, but we'll agree to this. As long as your agreements are within the bounds of the law, they're going to be accepted by a judge. So why not work with an attorney to get all your documents done, be transparent, here's everything I have, here's everything you have, and how are we going to divide it all? What's best for our children, little Johnny, little Sally, who has these needs that not every judge is going to have all the intricate knowledge about. So that is why my preference after doing this for so long is let's try to mediate. Let's try to resolve as many issues as we can to give you some relief as you move forward.
We got a question from Joshua Goldsmith. What are the thoughts about parental alienation and extremely high costs that parents may spend in court fighting each other and others for their children?
Well, you know what? That's a really good question. And it's extremely hard to prove parental alienation. The problem is you have one parent saying the other parent is coaching this child not to like me. It's also extremely hard for a judicial officer to go into somebody's home and find out exactly what's being said. And then there's your children hear everything. So while you may not be speaking negatively to them about the other side, you may be on the phone talking to your friend. You may be, they're always listening. They're always around. So I agree. The high costs of parents who are sitting there and fighting because they're fighting over their children, that's exactly what we try to do in mediation. We try to come up with creative, reasonable solutions for parents to share their children so they're not doing the dance and the fight in court.
Well, Joshua also said, I believe that mediation should be a mandatory final resolution in each and every child custody case with a 50-50 standard. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I understand where this gentleman is coming from, but that's not reasonable because the standard is not about the parents. The standard in California, which is the right way to look at it, is what is in the best interests of the children. So California doesn't favor 50-50 or non-50-50. They have to focus, overarching umbrella, what's in the best interests of the children. For example, if a parent works 16 hours a day, and they start at 4 o'clock in the morning, that parent is not taking the child to school. Not because that parent's a bad parent, but because they can't. It's the reality of their situation. So we start with the best interests of the children and then how to maximize frequent and continuing contact with both parents.
Wow. Joshua also said parental alienation is child abuse.
Yes, it is, if you can prove it. And absolutely, there are situations when the court recognizes what one side is doing, and they have often said, if you continue to do this, I will flip custody, because it's not in the child's best interest for you to keep negating, rejecting, ignoring, alienating the other side. But it is hard to prove.
Wow. So what is the price between mediation and litigation? I'm talking about
Well, the way I explain it to those who call for consults is, in family law, you retain an attorney with a retainer fee. And that can be, depending on the law firm, the experience, it can be, $5,000 to $15,000, depending on what's going on. The difference between litigation and mediation is one side pays that retainer to one attorney, and then the other side has to pay a retainer to their attorney. In mediation, you're both coming to the table, so you're both sharing that retainer. And since it's a more collaborative process, because we're playing nicely in the sandbox, it ends up being less expensive every single time.
I think that's probably, if people could get their mindset, if you're actually going to get a divorce or something like that, I mean, listen to what you're saying. I think that's the way to go. Mediation.
Right. I mean, you're not going to be able to mediate when there's a restraining order in place. If there's domestic violence, that's not a case that's ripe for mediation. If one person is, been diagnosed as a narcissist or, has to always be in control, that's not necessarily ripe for mediation. I mean, I'm feisty. I'm quite a little bit of a bulldog, so I can micromanage those creative characters, we'll call them, but it's just makes it more challenging. And my point is to try to reduce the stress. I don't want to create somebody to be in a situation where they're intimidated by their partner. So there are ways that we can work around that as well.
Yeah. So what type of attorney mediate, and what type litigate? Antonio, is it the same type of attorney or two different skill sets or several?
I think a good litigator can mediate. I'm not sure. I know that a good mediator is not always a litigator. So I started out as a litigator, and I decided that it was not in my best interest to continue doing that kind of work because of the way our system is. So I have switched myself to mediation. So because I know how litigation goes and the kinds of issues that come up for litigation, it makes me a very successful mediator. In order to be a mediator, you do need to know what's going on in the court system. You do need to know who the judicial officers are and what their bent is, because that can help you say, well, if you're going to court and you litigate, the chances of you getting X, Y, and Z are this versus I think this would happen. That is why, James, actually, I do a lot of mandatory settlement conference. I'm a mandatory settlement conference judge. So when the case in family law in San Diego is ready for trial, the court requires you to go to mandatory settlement conference before they will give you a trial date. They want you to try to resolve your case before you go to trial. And they will come to me. They will appoint me to try to do that for these parties. And I've been successful, and I'm not lying, 99 out of 100 times. I have done this 150 different times, and I've only not been able to settle 2.
Wow, that's a very good success.
Because I'm blunt, I'm honest. We're not playing games here. We have a limited amount of time. Let's get down to it, and let's figure out where we're able to move things along the line.
Yeah, you mentioned a minute ago is certain cases, at least one couldn't go before mediation because there was a restraining order, something like that. Are there any other cases or matters that might not be able to go in front of mediation?
The only ones that shouldn't be mediated are those where you're refusing at all to compromise or make any change. The definition of mediation is the ability to compromise. And so if it's so important to you to be right versus to get through it, that's not necessarily mediable. Mediable.
I tell you what, we're gonna take another station break. This getting interesting. So this is all great news. And I tell you again, if you want to be part of the conversation, all you do is go to the comments, just like Joshua is doing. And you can ask Bunny any question you want to. We'll be back shortly after the break with more Bunny Mantell. It's your life. I'm Dr. James J.C. Cooley.
Really get a chance to know who you are. And once you know who you are, you truly know who you are, love who you are. Love who you are. You're a masterpiece. Love who you are. Love who you were born to be. Love me some me. That's what I'm talking about. When you leave high school, you gotta know today or tomorrow, or hopefully today, what your plans are. Hopefully, there is no bad decision unless there is no plan. Create, collaborate, commit with confidence. Commit with what? Commit with what? And everything that you do.
We are not a charity. We are veterans. We are warriors, brothers, and sisters. We don't need, we deliver. Opsforvets.com. Handshakes, not handouts.
I'm Albert Rencheria, Marine Chief Warrant Officer 4 retired, Ops for Vets CEO. I invite you to take a look at our organization. You'll quickly understand why out of thousands of groups currently serving our veterans, we have become the most rapidly growing and opportunity-rich team in the market. We have deployed dynamic distributors who are responsible for servicing and growing their regions, East, Central, and West. We provide a complete roster of high-caliber services produced to create the results you require. Find us on the web at www.opsforvets.com. Handshakes, not handouts.
Welcome back to the James Cooley Show. It's your life, and it's a lot of great information that Bunny is putting out. And I pray that I never have to go through any of these things again. I mean, because happiness. She will. She will. But now we nowhere near nothing like that. That's my baby right there. So. But if you want to be part of this conversation, all you have to do is just ask Bunny any questions that you want to, and you see all of this wealth of knowledge and really understands what this is all about, because she's been doing it for quite some time. And if you're looking for a good mediation attorney, wow, you don't even have to look any further. I mean, you don't have to look any further. You're already looking at her right now. So Bunny, what should a person avoid when it comes to mediation?
What should they avoid?
Yes.
Don't try to hide your things. Don't try to hide your assets. Don't try to hide anything, because family law in California is a transparent process. And if you hide it, not only will we find it, but then the court has a way of punishing you for that. So it's not in your best interest to hide it. If you really want to do mediation, even if you want to do litigation, you're still going to have to show the, as I say, show the money. You can't get around that, and don't do it.
I know when you're going through those types of things, and I can only speak for myself, a long time ago, that I did try to pass my stuff off to other family members and stuff like that, and the courts, they know, they find it, so some kind of way. So that's a great point.
I mean, there are certain things, Dr. Cooley, that I understand. If you're a military member and you're getting shot at, you don't want to share many don't feel it reasonable for them to have to share their military retired pay because X or Y didn't get shot at, I did. But, there's a flip side. There's a lot of non-paid jobs like raising children, keeping the house, making sure all your bills are paid, which is the only way the other side can go and leave with a sane mind that all those things are going to be taken care of. So while I understand it, I also understand that, the spouse who stays home has to do all these things. That is why everything in California, when you acquire it during the marriage, is community and gets to be shared. Now that's the law. Sometimes people say, I don't want it. Okay, that's where mediation comes in to say, okay, great. This is the law, but you guys are agreeing to something else, which is still within the bounds of the law. So that's fine. Let's write it up and let's get it into court.
So what are the traps to be aware of if you mediate opposed to litigate?
Well, the traps, I would say, everything in family law is very document laden, tax returns, bank accounts, statements, credit cards. So the traps are waiting too long. You can only find documents for 7 years. If you really feel like you're in the process of getting a divorce or you're going to file, whether it's mediation or litigation, get your last 3 tax returns. Get your last 12 months of bank statements, credit card statements, and pay stubs. get the documents that you know you're going to need from both sides. While you guys are still married, you have the right to their information as well. Something people don't know is that when you're married, you're not just spouses, you are also business partners. According to the corporation's code, you have the fiduciary duties to each other that business partners do. So spouse A can go into spouse B's business and look at their books, and spouse B can go into spouse A's bank account and look at their books. So you have the ability to get this information, and it's not to stick it to the other side. It's to better prepare your attorney or mediator. Once you have all these documents, it's like dominoes. Everything falls into place after that, again, making it a simpler, more streamlined, less anxiety-laden process.
Wow. How can the whole family, I'm talking about, I know you had mentioned sometimes, you got the kids and this, and how can the whole family benefit and be a part of it, benefit for the best of the whole family?
Well, one thing that's nice about mediation is it results in agreements. And agreements tend to be upheld and honored by the parties much better than having a judge shove some orders down your throat. So when you've come to these agreements, it creates stability and finality for the children. They get to know exactly when they're going to be with mom and dad, or mom and mom, whatever the schedule is. Their belly is easier, which is the whole focus. Their belly is easier. That's what's important. So with mediation, and for the adults, once they have an agreement, the relief, I've had so many people like break down in tears, not because of, being sad or elated, just from relief that they're no longer trying to work it out or arguing over an issue. It's been resolved, and it was resolved with their input and exactly what will work for their situation. That's the best medicine there is in this kind of system.
Mindsets. What would you tell if you got listeners right now? Just like you said, if they're thinking about doing this, how would you help formulate their mindset? Tell them, some of the things that they might have to change their way of thinking in order to actually come to some resolution prior to them getting to you. So
a lot of people believe that divorce is a negative thing, possibly. It's not. Everybody says divorce and it's like, Voldemort or Darth Vader. Divorce doesn't happen to you. If you're going to get in that position, you've got to change your mindset and say, this is happening for me. This is the beginning of a new phase. It doesn't have to be a bad phase. Yes, is change difficult? Is there going to be discord and having a redo? Absolutely. I don't live with unicorns and flowers, but it's a matter of changing your mindset. I get to make new traditions. I get to make new plans. I get to start fresh. My kids deserve a happy parent. My kids deserve less conflict. This is going to be stable for them. And once you can change your mindset that it's not happening to you, they didn't leave you. You're not leaving them. You're leaving the relationship. You're starting fresh. You're going to have a new set of boundaries and relationship with this person, for if you have children, for however long that goes on. So when you change your mindset that way, and that's why it's part of our ethical duty to also offer counseling, not the attorney but to offer referrals to counselors that can help them change that mindset so they're more productive going forward. Just take it where, you've got kids, you're going through this divorce, you're getting depressed, you're getting upset, all reasonable reactions. Now you have little people watching you do this. they're also going through depression, anxiety, stress. If you can show them that your mindset is shifting, how much that helps them as well. So when you go via mediation, and if that's a really viable option, that sets you guys up for that kind of success, because it's not the tooth against and the fighting and I have to be right. What are you teaching your little kids about, I have to be right at all costs?
Wow. So that's great. And you mentioned something as getting through this, so the healing process can start, and like beginning the new year off with a fresh mindset. So why is it faster to get through the process if the mediation, if it working, why should one just get through it? Because they already made decision, they come to you, they agree upon all these things, and it gives them a fresh start on life. Yeah, can you talk about that a little bit more?
Sure.
Got about 2 minutes before the break.
Okay, so the way our system works is somebody files for divorce. Then you have to serve the other person. So if somebody doesn't want to be served, that delays things, right? You got to find them, you got to serve them. You also may need a sheriff to serve them or some sort of formal person to serve them, okay? That's already increased your costs. Now, through mediation, we're doing it collaboratively. One person files for divorce, the other one accepts service by email. That happened. Wow, I just saved weeks off your time. There are documents that have to be done in every divorce case. They're called disclosures. Well, if you're in mediation, my staff is doing them for both sides. So we are getting them done. We're pushing both sides. Remember, everybody's playing nicely in the sandbox. So we're not trying to hide things. We're not having, everybody gives the documents. That takes less time. If you're litigating, you may have to do something called discovery. They don't want to give you everything. I didn't know about this account. Now you have to go and get it. That's much more expensive and it takes more time. Now you can't agree upon custody and visitation. So you file a motion with the court. Well, that's going to take you 4 or 5 months to be heard. But in mediation, we can do these, hey, let's have a session in 2 weeks. We've talked about custody and visitation. What are we going to do? The only calendar I have to deal with is mine and the clients. I'm not dealing with a court calendar and whether or not the other attorney. So that saves you time. Mediation can be done in 6, 7, 8 months. Litigation, 2, 3, 9, 12. I have one client, 19 years.
Wow.
We've been litigating.
Wow.
Okay, his child was a handheld infant when I got the case. This kid's going to college. That's what ended the case.
We got to take a station break. This is so much fun to learn and understand what this is all about. Litigations. So we're going to come back. We're going to talk some more about that. If you want to be part of the conversation, just go to the comments. We'll see you shortly after the break.
Noah Dingley here, producer of The James Cooley Show, It's Your Life. And the new audio version of James' book, Country Boy, City Boy, A Journey That Ain't Over Yet, is a must-have. James shares his true life story of struggle and success in America. It's both a cautionary tale and a roadmap to achieving the American dream. Get the new audio version of Country Boy, City Boy, A Journey That Ain't Over Yet by James Cooley on Amazon.com or wherever audiobooks are sold.
Life is a series of circles and cycles, phrases and stages. These experiences teach you the lessons of life. You can either ignore them or embrace them. Welcome to It's Your Life with James Cooley. James is a motivational speaker, author, military veteran, and founder of the J.C. Cooley Foundation. James is here to equip you to strive for greatness and overcome adversity. It's time to get you equipped today for the challenges of tomorrow. Now, here's the host of It's Your Life, James Cooley.
Hello, welcome back to It's Your Life. I'm Dr. James J.C. Cooley, and I tell you, it's a lot of information that Bunny is putting out right now that I know it's going to be helpful to a lot of our listeners out there. We all experience trials and tribulations, and sometimes it ends up in divorce. And just like what Bunny is saying, if you know you're going to do this, she told you the differences between litigation and mitigation. I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer, to the mitigation portion with what if I had to do it all over again, from years and years ago, if I would knew this information right here that we're getting today, it wouldn't even been a decision, because it does cost thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars and heartache and time. And so it's a no-brainer. If you got any question you want to ask, you might want to catch you in the next 9 minutes. That's all we got left. So I got to ask this question, Barney. What you mentioned about the back and forth between mitigation and litigation, the time, 17, 19 years almost. What is the most challenging or difficult part of the mitigation process? I know getting to the end is a final goal, but what is the hardest portion that you think that happens during that process?
In the mediation process or the litigation process? The mediation process?
Mediation process, not litigation.
I think the hardest part, and is getting people to realize that I'm truly neutral. I don't pick a side. And I mean, when I say it's the hardest part, I don't mean it's the longest part. Everybody thinks that if I've had a conversation with the one side, somehow I'm going to pick that side. But that's not how it works. Like I said, in mediation, it's very clear that the attorney or the mediator that you are using is a neutral. So we will certainly give the law to both sides, and the law is also neutral. So just because I give the law and the law happens to support one side's position, example, one party doesn't want to pay support, spousal support, but the law provides that the other side is entitled to it, I still have to say what the law is. It doesn't mean I'm picking a side. And I'm very, very clear about that, because it's my license and it's also my reputation. I want to do a great job for these folks. I want to get them through the system, so they have to be able to trust me. And if they can't trust me, we're not going anywhere. So that is, once they realize that I'm really on the side of getting you through the process, then it all goes much smoother.
I know your success rate is 99%, but what is the typical success rate with other mediation people?
Less.
Yeah. So
or less.
Okay, what happens if mediation is not successful?
then they have to go out and find their own attorneys. I would be precluded because, again, I'm neutral. So I cannot pick a side. I cannot represent A or B, and neither could anybody in my firm.
Okay. So is arbitration and mediation, is that the same?
So many people, there's so many words for it. There's collaborative litigation, there's arbitration, there's mediation. Arbitration, I look at differently. Arbitration, I look at it as when you've already had a dispute or some sort of judgment, and you need to get you have to arbitrate because you don't agree on that. I don't really look at it. I've done arbitration for like when a client doesn't believe they owe their attorney that much money and they have a dispute. That I believe is more like arbitration. Mediation to me is what we've been discussing, where you're two people trying to get through the process.
Wow. So it happens all the time. Well, you just mentioned something about arbitration with attorneys. So who makes, say you got a successful mediation between the parties, right? Who has the final authority to sign off the whatever? So it's a binding document between both parties.
So like I said, in mediation, you're still filing for divorce, right? So the court still has jurisdiction over you. Once the parties have agreed on everything, I become a glorified secretary, and I draft it up into an agreement, and using all the proper forms and the legal mumbo jumbo. And then we get the parties to sign it, and then we submit it to the court. Assuming the parties haven't agreed to anything illegal, the judge will sign off on it. So the judge still has the final authority, but I've never seen it that a judge is going to reject an agreement just because the judge don't like it. It doesn't work that way. As long as what you've agreed to is within the bounds of the law, the judges will sign off on it.
So that seems like it's so reasonable right there.
Right?
It does. And I just wish we all could get along. I'm talking about if we move it in that direction, and you're going to do it. Save that money. I'm talking about where you get caught up in litigation.
Well, what's funny is, coming from Canada, very few family law cases where I come from ever see a courtroom. It is an American, forgive me, pandemic that they want to sue everybody.
You're right about that. They want to sue you for everything here.
Everything. You sneeze in the wrong direction, you're getting sued. I mean, and you've seen the world today. We're a very litigious society. Whereas in a lot of other places, they're like, really? You're going to court and family court? Like, what is that?
That is. So we're down to the last couple of minutes. 1 minute or less, Bunny. What are 3 takeaways that you want our viewers and our listeners to get from this great discussion that we're having today?
Don't discount mediation just because you and your spouse don't agree on everything. Okay, mediation can still be utilized and very, very productive. Understand that mediation requires compromise. Okay, if you are unwilling to compromise, spend a lot of money in litigation.
How come the audience, how can people get in touch with you if they want to enlist your services?
Well, you can reach us directly at 619-574-8000, and they will put you on my calendar for a free 30-minute phone consultation, see if I can't help you. Or you can reach us at www.primusfamilylaw.com, and we have our submission form that they can fill out, and we will reach out to them that way as well.
Wow. Bunny, as always, you are a fantastic guest. So happy that you came back on. Hopefully you have time in your schedule again to come on and teach us some more, because all of this information is so important. So
I'm only as good as my host, kind sir.
So thank you so much. I'd like to thank Michelle Cooley, Dr. Michelle Cooley.
Dr. Michelle Cooley. Congratulations.
For always putting together great programs and getting great guests. And So thank you, Dr. Cooley. Most importantly, I'd like to thank my listening audience, my viewers, wherever you're watching it at. You guys are God sent to us. We love you. We love you. I want to leave you guys today with always dream big, think big, and be big at everything you do. We'll see you next week, beginning Monday, same time.
Happy holidays.
Same to you. It's your life. I'm Dr. James Cooley.